What's up everyone? Today I'm talking about the Intex Challenger K1 kayak. This is an inflatable one-person kayak that's commonly found on Amazon. First off, if you're an experienced kayaker or already own a decent kayak, this likely isn't for you, unless you want an extra kayak so you can have a friend or family member join you. Given that this is an inflatable kayak and isn't designed to be used with a skirt, it's only meant to be used in calm waters. This isn't a whitewater kayak. Technically, the listed price on Amazon is just over $100. However, I've personally never seen it actually sold at that price. It always seems to be on sale. I believe I bought mine when it was around $85. At the time of recording, it's listed at $68, and I think the lowest I've ever seen it was $50. Before I get into the pros and cons, I think it would be best to share a couple of tips and notes. Firstly, if you're used to a non-inflatable kayak, this does sit a bit higher in the water, and for me, that's something that took a little bit to get used to. Due to the fact that it does sit a little higher, it feels a little more tippy compared to a traditional kayak, but I personally got used to it within about a mile. If you've never kayaked before, I don't think you'd notice it at all. I did read some other reviews before purchasing, and based on their suggestions, I barely inflated the bottom of the seat. The seat is separate from the kayak. It attaches with Velcro on the bottom and a buckle on either side, but the seat is also inflated in two separate sections. The top and bottom inflate separately, which allows you to fully inflate the back but leave the seat completely empty or partially inflated, which allows you to sit a little lower in the water. Another note, this kit comes with a triangle-shaped inflatable piece, and I didn't see any notes on what to do with it, but it's intended to be put in the very front of the kayak. This piece serves two purposes. First off, it helps lift the front of the kayak, which helps it glide through the water a little bit easier. And secondly, it helps keep the leg opening of the kayak actually open so the top of it isn't resting on your legs. One last tip. The valves on the kayak have two pieces that screw on. The first piece screws on and you inflate the kayak through that. Then you screw the second piece on to lock it. When it's time to deflate, the second piece comes off easily, but the first piece can get stuck. If this happens, you can use the second piece to unscrew the first. Once you do that, the kayak will begin to deflate on its own. On to things that I like about this kayak. First of all, it's cheap. That is the main reason I purchased it, and probably the reason most people choose this kayak over another option. I also really like that because this kayak is inflatable as opposed to a more traditional kayak, it can be easily deflated and stored. I haven't been able to fold it up in a way to get it back into the bag it came in, but others have, so this probably just depends on your packing skills and level of patience. But I can store this in my house or in my car without it being in the way of anything. It's also nice that it comes with everything you need to get started. It has the kayak itself, along with a pump, collapsible paddle, fin for the bottom, and storage bag. Other fins I've used have been somewhat difficult to add or remove, and it felt kind of stuck. This one, on the other hand, was very smooth. I like that it comes with netting in the front and ropes on the back as well, as I can use them as attachment points or a place to store things. On to the things I'm not too fond of. One of the first things I noticed was the inflation method. The method I'm used to is having the PSI printed on the valve and inflating to that PSI. This kayak has two lines printed on it, one for each valve, and it comes with this little plastic piece, and you hold up the plastic piece to the lines on the kayak, and when they expand to be the same length, that's how you know it's fully inflated. I don't like this method purely because I have to remember to bring this extra little piece with me, and I'm going to lose it at some point. Another thing related to inflating the kayak, the pump fell apart the second time I used it, but luckily it went back together fairly easily. Something I noticed once I started paddling was that the paddle itself feels very loose. The kayak also doesn't track very straight. Mine tracks to the left. Other reviewers had mentioned that theirs tracks to the right. The next thing is only going to be an issue for a small group of people, but it's something that I was disappointed in. Due to the shape and softness of the kayak, you can't get a suction mount for a GoPro to stick to it, and it doesn't come with an integrated mount. Now this is only an issue if you like to record your adventures like I do. And the next time I go out, I'm going to try to stick one of GoPro's sticky mounts to the kayak before it's inflated. I think that should work. but it is mildly disappointing that I can't mount my GoPro to something that's permanently attached to the kayak, or use my suction mount, which floats if it does happen to fall into the water. Now onto the size of the kayak. I'm 5'2", and I feel there's plenty of legroom. However, my boyfriend's about 5'9", and he said his feet hit the triangle piece in the front of the kayak. This kayak also feels a bit wider than a traditional kayak, which if you're a smaller person like me, makes it a bit more difficult to paddle without hitting the sides of the kayak. However, I feel like this is something I'll eventually get used to. So overall, I think this kayak is a good fit for someone who's just getting into kayaking, or someone who wants an extra kayak so that they can bring a friend or family member kayaking with them. It's a good bargain, it's very affordable and totally functional. I haven't noticed any kind of durability issues, but if one comes up further down the line, I'll add a pinned comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to be always adventuring.